Coming up in this video, how the law of attraction really works, the truth behind it, and the science. Hey everybody, it's Kalymnios here from theThoughtGym.com, here helping you become the superhuman leader I know that you can be, giving you everything that you need to take your life to that whole new level. And this week, in this video, I wanted to share with you about the science and the reality behind the law of attraction. The idea, this law of attraction became popular and certainly came to my attention with the movie The Secret. The Secret as a movie, as a book, has been hugely successful, widely praised by Oprah Winfrey and made it very, very popular. But there is a lot of criticism placed at The Secret, and I totally understand it because unfortunately the law of attraction in the way it is depicted, at least in the movie, was around just thinking about something and it will happen for you. And I think what they failed to really acknowledge was the fact that there needs to be a massive, massive, massive component of action. In fact, the word attraction has the word action in it. And I like to say that it's always take tremendous, repeatable action. ATTR, action, attraction. The law of attraction is really the law of always taking tremendous, repeatable action. But that aside, we know there's an action component to it. Nothing gets done if you're just sitting on your bottom, meditating about it. And I'm a big fan of meditation, so I'm not knocking that. I'm a big fan of visualization, so I'm not knocking that either. But what I did want to discuss in this video was potentially some ideas around the quote-unquote science behind law of attraction and another really way to interpret how the law of attraction might work. This is what I talk about in some of my seminars when I get asked about this question. I don't normally talk about the law of attraction, but inevitably in a Q&A, based on maybe what I've been talking about, someone might ask me. So I explain it in two different ways. One is the more esoteric, woo-woo kind of way that maybe is something that can be interpreted. So the law of attraction essentially is saying that what you think about becomes into your reality. And that is, to a large degree, actually true. That doesn't mean that you sit and you think about winning the lottery and that happens, although I'm sure it's happened in a couple of cases. But how you think really determines how you behave, how you act, and the results that you get. So from that perspective, it definitely works. But from a, let's say from a science perspective, if we can put some science behind this, this is how I like to interpret it. I hope you're going to be with me this. I'm going to explain this as simply as possible. But imagine all matter is made up of particles, like tiny microscopic particles that are often equated to like billiard balls, or a bit like the moon going around the earth going around the sun. That is a gross oversimplification about what happens, but for our purposes, let's assume that's the case. So imagine that these two golf balls are in fact particles, and they were at one point in the past part of one system, okay? You know, like kind of really close brother and sister, if you like, or twins. And they are separated by a great distance, okay? So they are very, very far apart, relatively speaking. And what we do is we stroke. In particle physics, they use the term stroke. They create some kind of influence on this. It's not exactly this, it's just a metaphor. But what happens is that this one responds in the similar way. And what's unusual about this is not so much that happens, because I was explaining this to my sister the other day. If we're in conversation, you and I'm speaking, I'm doing something. Let's say I turn to the left and I say, you now turn to the left. You found out about that because I spoke to you, and that information went across to you via sound waves. So it went at the speed of sound. Now, the fastest that anything can travel, as far as scientists currently believe, I have my doubts personally, but is the speed of light. Einstein, and who's to go against Einstein, but Einstein suggested that the speed limit of the universe was the speed of light, and that no information can travel faster than the speed of light. So that being said, here are our two golf balls, our two particles that were once part of the same system, now far apart. This one turns to the left, let's say, and this one will turn to the left as well. or turn to the right, whatever the action tends to be. But in order for it to turn, it needs the information that this one has turned, and therefore, let's say this sends that information across, it can only travel at the speed of light. That's the fastest it can possibly travel. Now that's not unusual, but what is unusual, and what was postulated and later has been proved, is that when this one has something affect it, instantaneously this one is affected, i.e. this one reacts to this one faster than information can possibly travel, faster than the speed of light can possibly travel between the two. So scientists are still in doubts as to how this works, why this works, is it something going back in time and whatever else, but for the purposes of what I want to talk about today, the point is that these things were once one system, and the idea is that if particles are once in their history part of a closed similar system and they are separated, they are intrinsically linked. This action is called quantum entanglement, or spooky action at a distance, as Einstein liked to call it. And it's basically saying that something can get affected on account of something else being affected instantaneously, no matter how far apart they are. And they've tested this in the laboratory and they've proven it to be true, that particles, I think in this case, were like 12 meters apart, but the information traveled much faster than light could have possibly traveled in those 12 meters. Now, a good point for the law of attraction, and I appreciate this is a bit of an intense video, but it's a training video, it's a teaching video. The point with the law of attraction is that these particles, our golf balls, were once part of the same system. Now, the fact is that everything on this planet, in this universe, is made up of these microscopic particles and quarks and bosons and everything else. And according to Big Bang theory, which again may prove to be false at some point in the future or incomplete, everything started with the Big Bang, i.e. everything that came from this universe came from one single point. That means that everything in this universe was once part of the same system. It also means that everything is ultimately connected. And if that is the case, then doing one action somewhere will affect something else somewhere else. And if your thoughts are in fact things, they're vibrations, they're patterns of electroactivity in your brain, if these things are thinking about your sports car, then things elsewhere are being affected in order to orchestrate that into your life. I'm not saying it's exactly like this, I'm not even saying it is like this, but this is how you could learn to understand it. I personally prefer to explain it in a different way, but this is the esoteric pseudoscience kind of explanation for it. But I like to explain the law of attraction in a different way. And that is that what you put your attention to comes into being, not because necessarily of this, although possibly, who's to say, but it's because you become more aware of things that will bring those things to you. In our brains, we have this thing called the RAS, the reticular activating system. This is part of the brain that pays attention to things that are important to us. So if every day we want to open a barber shop or hairdresser shop and we're looking for suitable premises, and on our vision board is us in cutting someone's hair in the barber shop, and we're visualizing, we're sitting there, we're visualizing about this barber shop, and we need a shop, we need a shop, we need a shop. That is what's going to pay attention in your RAS, your reticular activating system. Therefore, when you walk down that same street that you've been walking down time and time again before you did your vision board, you're going to start to notice the suitable signs. You're going to start to notice the to let or for sale signs that are going on, because you're paying attention to it. Because the fact is, we can't pay attention to everything that's around us. There's just too much information, so we filter out a lot of it through our senses and through what our focus is on. And so when we have the vision board and we visualize on something, we say to our reticular activating system, this is important to me. Pay attention to anything that will lead to this. And that, in my opinion, is how the law of attraction does work. So for you, let's say you have bought a new car, or you bought a new handbag, or you bought a new shirt, or whatever it might be. Have you ever had that experience where suddenly everyone has got that new car, or everyone has got that new handbag, or that new dress, or that new shirt? And it's not that any more people have had it or got it, It's more that you're now paying attention to that because it's important to you. So the reason why you want to focus on visualization, you might want to focus on creating a dream board, a vision board, which is effectively a board with the images and pictures of the things that you want, is much like I say, like, you know, an architect will have the drawing of the building that he's going to create, because in order for it to come into reality, it needs to be in his conscious and unconscious mind. He needs to be able to see an image of what it is before it becomes reality. You may have the experience, in fact, of creating a new kitchen or designing a house, and you create like a mood board, which is the same thing really, where you're cutting out magazine things of the kitchen you want. And then that is what becomes your reality, because you've been looking out for that particular sofa, that particular kitchen unit, and then you find it where you need to find it. Does this make sense to you? I know this has been a long video, but I just wanted to share the kind of two ways that I interpret the law of attraction. I'm sure there's other ways to interpret it and explain it, and maybe you have got a different way. Maybe you want to talk about the science element a little bit more, or maybe that doesn't really matter to you, and the whole idea that what you pay attention to becomes your focus, and that's why the law of attraction works. That makes sense to you. For me, the second one makes, I guess, a greater deal of logical sense to me, but there are things in this world, this universe, that we have got no idea about, and we may never have an idea about, and so it's entirely possible that this idea of these particles, our particles, everything being interconnected, which I truly believe at some level is the case, that it influences the other particle, i.e. it starts to create that sports car image, or whatever it might be, coming into your conscious awareness. But you don't have to buy into this, that's fine. You can just understand the idea that what you focus on becomes your reality, because that's what you're paying attention to in the first place. That is one of my longer videos. If you stuck with me to the end, you're a champion, you are a star, and you are really dedicated to improving your life and becoming the best version of yourself, the super leader that I know that you can be. So thank you for that. And please do subscribe, do share this, or maybe you want to learn it and explain it to your friends in a shorter way than what I've just explained it, but I have done it as simply and as shortly as I possibly could. Please do post any questions if you've got any queries about this. If not, I strongly recommend watching a movie called What the Bleep Do We Know, because that probably explains things a little bit better as well. I'm not sure if it goes into this exactly, but it will explain some science in a really easy way for you to understand. So until next time, take this on board, maybe rewatch it, understand exactly what I'm talking about, use the law of attraction to your benefit. I will see you very soon. Until then, stay strong, stay super. Bye bye.